Madrid, Spain at the UN Climate Change Conference. And I found a fellow denier, Marc Morano from Climate Depot. Now, first things first, I want to talk to you about the conference itself. I went on the UN website and they seem to be really excited about this conference. They're bragging about how many more people are here as opposed to Poland. They're bragging about how many journalists are here. But we're trapped in the green zone, my colleague Kian Bexley and I behind the camera, so we don't get to see what's happening on the other side of the climate apartheid wall. What's going on over there? Is it as exciting as the UN would have us all believe?
No, not at all. And as a student of these since 2002, the Earth Summit in Rio, I can tell you this is one of the most, I would call it, low energy climate summits. And I think part of it is they started in Brazil, got diverted to Chile, and then Chile had unfortunately implemented so many UN-style policies that the people erupted, they couldn't hold it there. So they're trying to make lemonade out of lemons, but this is still a lemon of a conference. Absolutely nothing of significance is happening here other than the UN president declaring calls for more carbon taxes, Bloomberg and Kerry showing up as you would expect. Only real star power is Harrison Ford, who came in briefly. Greta is here, but she almost made herself too available that she was almost at every event walking around the halls. People were almost getting bored with her after a while. And I just don't think there's much of a mission or purpose. Doesn't seem that crowded to me. It doesn't surprise me that more media is here. It's more centrally located. It's in Europe. It's easy for a lot of them to come here. But I just don't think, the UN I think is viewing this 2019 summit as a placeholder until next year when they can see what happens with the United States elections and they can move on to the essentially the UN Paris 2, which, remember, they declared the Paris Agreement saved the planet, and now they're saying it wasn't enough and it's woefully inadequate. So.
Now, you had made mention to me off camera, we were talking about calls for carbon taxes. As Canadians, we have a perennial call for a carbon tax, but they're talking about like a global carbon tax.
Yeah, they've been talking about this for years. A global, first of all, it wasn't always called a carbon tax. It was called a CO2 budget for every man, woman, and child on the planet. In fact, even the UN president, Secretary General, actually alluded to people talking about increasing the carbon taxes and cutting back the budgets as a way to deal with this. So this is back in a cycle. They've been wanting a global tax on carbon for decades. I don't think they're any closer necessarily to getting that. However, if the United States goes south with its election next year and Donald Trump loses, you're going to have a major player, because the next Democratic president would be gung-ho. They would be outdoing the UN chief. By the way, the UN chief is a former president of Socialist International. Most of the public has no idea about that.
That is completely unsurprising. Carbon taxes are just a form of wealth distribution by another name. I wanted to talk to you about some of the stuff you and the friends at CFACT have gotten up to here. You staged a bit of a, I don't want to say protest, it was more of a stunt at the Burger King, again on the other side of the climate apartheid wall, inside where the delegates are. And here on the inside, where the public is allowed, I don't know if you've had the pleasure of wandering around, but there is only one place where you can get a burger on this side, and it is one of those soy abominations, meatless burgers. And so that's what the UN is presenting to the outside, that this is how we need to be eating less. But you've got a story that's not exactly the case.
Yeah, now you just told me, I did not realize they were offering the soy burgers on this side. That's a classic Hollywood UN hypocrisy. Tell the public what they need to do, but then behind closed doors, behind the iron wall on the other side there, they're chowing down hamburgers. They have a food court there, and it is, you can safely say it is the busiest Burger King you will see in the busiest food establishment there.
So hungry.
UN delegates and activists lined up every day. We have shots of them stuffing down hamburgers. They do not offer the fake meat Impossible Burger at this Burger King. Now, this is despite the fact the UN issued their big agricultural report last summer, which said meat eating is killing the planet. Cow emissions are more deadly to the planet than all the transportation sector combined. That we need to treat meat eaters as the same way in restaurants, the way we treat smokers, and banish them. Yet, the UN delegates have no problem shoving down Whoppers every day, and they don't even offer. Now, the UN even gave an award to the company that makes the Whopper fake meat burger at Burger King, on December 10th, but they still don't offer fake meat. And we confirmed that with the manager of the Burger King.
Oh, isn't that fascinating? Now, you actually ran into a couple other hypocrites. I don't know if you want to talk about all the hypocrites, but one, Harrison Ford, you ran into him.
Yeah, Harrison Ford had bragged, the climate warrior Harrison Ford, who actually said, "We know who you are," speaking to climate skeptics like in a threatening way, came out and said that he frequently flies up the coast with his passion of flying to get a cheeseburger just because he's bored and wants to fly. So I asked him about that, and his answer was, well, I'm now a vegetarian, and then he cut off questions and walked away. And I continued to pursue him, but I would assume now if he flies up the coast, it's to get a fake meat burger. But who knows after seeing that the UN doesn't care about that. But Harrison Ford, I asked him repeatedly, should the United Nations allow this Burger King here without the fake meat? Why are they allowing this? Is this hypocritical? And he would not take the question, kept walking. In fact, his entourage circled closely and tightly surrounded him. So just another example, though, of a Hollywood celebrity. By the way, he collects cars, huge carbon footprint. But by doing this, I'm a vegetarian, Al Gore the same way, he claims to be a vegan.
He does. No, I don't believe that.
Believing that, yeah.
Sorry, no.
Yes. And of course, you guys know yourselves with Greta, they don't always practice what they preach. I love the rebels' phrase of climate contraband and finding the plastic bottles and everything in the car.
It's really funny how these climate hypocrites can walk on the other side of these walls with such impunity because they know the UN is going to keep out skeptical journalists. And you've done a little bit of skeptical journalism, so I'm happy that's happening over there. Now, next year, the conference, I think, is in Glasgow, right?
Glasgow, Scotland, which is kind of odd because, first of all, the last 10 years or so, they've had 3 in Poland because they're trying to woo Poland and get them all the business. And now this will be the 3rd year in a row of a Euro-centered UN conference, which is kind of odd because normally, interestingly enough, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, normally they like to go to exotic places, and there's a reason for that.
It's December.
Well, that, yes. But they also want to politically appeal to the developing world, the people who, the 1 billion people who are governed by these leaders who would rather take the cash than develop their own people. We actually have the chart. The biggest delegations to this UN summit are not, maybe besides journalists, are African nations. And one of the reasons is they believe they're going to be the biggest recipients of this UN climate slush fund. So it makes sense that all of Africa and other developing countries would want to come here. And all it's basically going to do is the money is going to pay these governments to keep the people poor. The poorer they keep them in the lack of development, the more earth-friendly, or as the UN's award, the planetary health will continue.
Marc, I want to thank you so much for your honest assessment of the conference that we weren't allowed to attend. And I want to thank you so much for keeping those climate hypocrites on their toes over there. And, we need to see you more often than just at these conferences.
Yes, okay. Well, one thing I can tell you, from being on the other side of the iron wall, I can tell you that there's a new buzzword here at the UN Summit. And I'm working in these rooms and I just keep hearing it over and over. It started annoying me and it finally sunk in. Climate positive. You'll hear that over and over on the other side. All they're saying, we need to act in ways that are climate positive. Well, we need climate positive. And every speaker at the WWF, at the Euros, they just throw out this phrase. That's their new phrase. In other words, you don't have to be perfect as long as you're climate positive, working in the right direction. So that's the new buzzword of this conference.
Bizarre. Well, everybody, that's Marc Morano from Climate Depot, and he's here with the guys from CFACT, and they're always making trouble, but making these stuffy conferences a little more fun. For Rebel News here in Madrid, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. We're here in Madrid, Spain this week, covering the We're here in Madrid, Spain this week, covering the United Nations Climate Change Conference. We are banned from the conference, but we're doing more real journalism than any one of the 3,100 journalists allowed inside. To see all of our reports, go to rebelun.com. And to support our independent journalism from here on the ground, please go to rebelun.com to donate.